Go. On to you, Jeff.
All right, hour two of Inside the Birds live from Radio Row. Geoff Mosher, Andrew DeCecco from InsideTheBirds.com, and we are joined by a former Eagle. You remember this guy? I mean, he's all over the place. Former Eagles tight end, Clay Harbor. Clay, thanks for joining us, man.
I appreciate you guys having me. It's always good to talk birds. You know, we're going down memory lane, some of the old days, but back in the Super Bowl, baby, and they're playing against my old coach, the guy that drafted me, Andy Reid, which I think adds, a whole other element to this game, the fact that they're going against Coach Reid.
Absolutely. We got a lot to talk about with this matchup. And then, of course, talk about you, your career, and everything that's happened with you. First, want to tell everybody, hour two is presented by Brooklyn Bowl. Inside the Birds and Miller Lite. Inside the Birds and Miller Lite present Bird Bowl 2023 at Brooklyn Bowl, Philadelphia, with 20 big screens, dollar wings, $20 Go Birds beer buckets, giveaways, and more. Brooklyn Bowl, Philadelphia is Fishtown's premier location to watch the Eagles soar. Make your plans for the big game now and reserve your table. VIP bowling experience, all you can eat food package while you still can. Fly Eagles fly your way to brooklynbowl.com. For more information, Go Birds, says Brooklyn Bowl. All right. Good to catch up with you, man. It's been quite a while.
It's been a minute, yeah.
It's been a minute. Now, I look a lot older. You look like you just got walked off the field, man.
I live in Center. Well, that's pretty good skin measurement. You look the exact same.
No, not too bad. I guess we got good genetics.
Yeah.
You look like you just played the season.
I think I could, guys. I mean, maybe give me a shoulder pass. I could probably play a game, but the problem would be when I wake up in the morning and I try to get out of bed, I would need help. I would need assistance to get out of bed, the back, the hammies. But if you needed me for a good 20 plays, I could probably go out there and give you 20.
Give you 20? All right,
Give it
rotational
yeah,
to the tight end?
20 plays. Second tight end, yeah, it's easy.
All right. Now, wait, I got to ask you about this whole, because you just said something that triggered a flashback, a memory, but not from when you were playing.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm not a big TV watcher. My wife watches the Bachelor shows, right? And I do remember walking by while she was watching and doing the double. I'm like, is that Clay Harbor? Is he on the Bachelor or the Bachelorette?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. How in the world did that happen?
So it's random. My agency hits me up and they're like this TV show. They're interested in having you come on. And for me, I'm like, I'm getting older. I don't know, maybe I have a year or two left. Maybe it's something cool for after football that could lead to something. And next thing you know, I'm doing it. I didn't realize how big it was. I didn't know it was like that big of a deal and that many people watched it. Next thing you know, it's like now I'm, I play 8-9 years in the NFL. I walk by someone like that's that guy from The Bachelor. Yeah. And I'm like, come on, man. That's the least thing I'm proud of that I've ever done in my life.
But you got hurt, right? You felt it because you said that what you said that triggered it. You said you could roll out of bed, maybe play 20. Didn't you fall out of a bed or something?
I didn't fall out of a bed, but I was even worse. I was playing a football game and I stiff armed a guy and I broke my wrist. But what people don't realize is I was with the Saints the year before and I had broken my wrist and I got surgery, but they had never fixed it. And I didn't realize that. So then I had to go back and it was the doctor never fixed it. So the first time I did anything with it was during this tackle. It was actually a tackle football game in Bachelor World. I'm playing against a male model. I'm playing against a medical device salesman, playing against a beard truck delivery guy, and I break my wrist after playing in the NFL for so long. But it was just a re-break. It was never healed. So in my defense, I didn't break it on The Bachelor. It was already broken. So come on, a guy in my season fell out of a bed. His name is David. He dressed up in a Big Bird costume on his entrance, so I think he kind of maybe thought he could fly out of bed or something. I don't know, and he ended up breaking. He didn't break it. I think he had a concussion or something, but he was okay.
All right, but in general, what was that experience like? It's such a shocking thing for me to have seen you on. So
no, I know.
Yeah, walk us through what it was like for you.
It was different, man, because it's like TV is TV. You're on a camera, but now you're trying to date. There are these producers who are trying to tell you what to say, what to do, and in your head you're like, that's not a good idea. So now you got to kind of decipher. Are they trying to edit this thing in a certain way to make it look a certain way? So when you watch the show, a lot of it isn't what it seems like. There's a big difference there. It's like editing a movie. You edit parts, you piece them together. But overall, it was fun. I made a lot of friends. I'm gonna have a lot of stories whenever I have kids and I'm a grandpa, telling my old war stories instead of war stories, going to be, bachelor stories and football stories. So, it was a fun experience, made a lot of friends, but would I do it again? No. And looking back, should I have went on? Probably not.
Really? I mean, I think that would be something where you'd be like, you're kind of getting into madness, right? And you just learn from the experience and take something from it.
I kind of underestimated it. I didn't realize how many people watched the show, and I thought like maybe it would help me with some things because if you want to get into media and say you played 9 years in the NFL, I mean, there's a lot of guys that play in the NFL. Unless you're a Hall of Famer, it's difficult for you to to get a good job. Maybe it's something you see Jesse Palmer, Jordan Rodgers, guys like that played in the NFL, but were able to use this platform to kind of expand and to build their brand. So I mean, that's kind of thoughts as open to meeting someone. And for me, I wasn't expecting getting hurt. If I would have known I was going to get hurt on The Bachelor, I mean, come on, like who gets hurt on The Bachelor?
Who gets hurt?
I probably wouldn't have done that. But overall, cool experience. Met a lot of cool people. And if any of you guys ever know anybody that wants to go on, hit me up, man. I can get them on.
I'm a little past my prime, but Andrew,
check
you
the road
might
next. Maybe me. So, you having that experience with Andy Reid, obviously he's the coach that drafted you play. Can you sort of pull the curtain back on what he's like from a preparational standpoint leading up to games?
Yeah, absolutely. So Coach Reid's a guy that's going to keep everything the same. And we only made the playoffs 1 year when I was there, but it doesn't matter what part of the season, if it's a big game against a divisional rival, if you're playing the Cowboys, if you're playing the Lions, if you're playing the Jaguars, he believes in his system. He believes in what he does. And I guarantee, people like, oh, Andy Reid after the bye week, he's so good. What's he do? He gives them time off. He gives guys time off, and then he brings you back. He'll do a 10-10-10 practice, what you call it, which is a light practice. And then from there, you move into your normal week. He's going to keep the preparation the same, keep everything the same, because he knows that routine is important to these players. He knows the habits, the routine, going through the same things over and over again. That's what builds the confidence. That's what helps you to execute, keep things the same. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to keep things the same. He's obviously maybe going to tweak little things to attack a defense a certain way, attack an offense a certain way. But all in all, he's going to keep things the same. And he's going to go in there and win the game like he goes in to win every game.
Yeah. I remember when Big Red drafted you to the Eagles, 2010, if I'm not mistaken, out of Missouri State.
Yep.
How did I remember that?
Yeah, I told you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was close. Iowa State, Illinois State, Missouri State.
Yeah.
It's all in that area.
Yeah.
You were kind of like came at a time where they were really trying to find a lot of great explosive traits at every position possible. And Brent Selleck had been there for quite a while. And I think we all thought, Brent was starting to get up there.
Yeah.
That they were either going to play a lot more two tight end packages, or that maybe you can be heir apparent. And you came in, and obviously you played a good deal.
Yeah.
But Brent, man, he kept just like being the Mr. Consistency that he would be for even 5-6 more years beyond.
No, yeah, Brent's incredible, man. The guy can do it all. He could block. He could catch. He wasn't the fastest guy. He didn't run the best route, but he was just consistent. And I mean, that's what it takes in that situation. And for me, I felt like in my younger days, I had the athletic traits. I was big, fast, strong. I could run, but mentally at first, it took me a little bit to like kind of get the offense to really learn how to do that NFL style of play. And being a 4th round pick, I don't think they were looking at me at that point. They just paid Brent Selleck a $40 million contract. They bring me in the late 4th round. I don't think they were looking at me to maybe take over that role. Obviously Chip Kelly comes in, they draft Zach Ertz the 1st, 2nd round. Sure. But yeah, I think definitely there was a role there that I had, and I could have did it better. I think I improved as I went elsewhere overall, but I loved my time in Philly. I learned a lot. I got better as I went on. And it was the start to my career. It was a good 3 years. I ended up playing 9, and it was a good place. And I loved Philly. It was a great city and just a passionate place to play.
What was the challenge? Was it blocking? Obviously, everybody who comes in, and especially from a smaller school, they have to learn. And in the offense that Andy was running at the time, tight end has to be able to learn.
Yeah.
Even Brent did. He came out of Cincinnati. How difficult was that? Was Tom Melvin your
Tom Melvin, yeah.
the great Tom Melvin?
Is he still coaching?
I think he's still with
Chiefs.
India.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, for me, I'd say the problem was consistency. I could block as good as any tight end. I was physical. You know, if you look back at the articles, Marty Mornwig, Clay Arbor does uncommon things, all these, Coach Reed. In practice, training camps and stuff, I would show it, but for some reason in the game, I wasn't as consistent as I needed to be. And I got better at that as my career went on. But at the time in Philly, it was just consistency was my main thing. I could run, I could jump, I could catch, I could block, but I wasn't a consistent guy that you needed there. So maybe could make a crazy play. Run a 4.5 40. I could jump 40 inches in combine. I had 30 plus bench press reps. I had a 10.5 broad jump. I had all these numbers, these traits, but consistency, I would say, was the number one thing. And I loved the contact. I loved the block. I could catch, but just consistency. I would drop a pass here. I would blow an assignment here. That's the reason I feel like in Philly I wasn't able to live up to my full potential.
That's helpful. I mean, did you have some sleepless nights in your career? I mean, was it difficult to want to be more consistent? I know it wasn't a work ethic. Everybody said you worked hard.
Oh yeah, I was one of the first guy in, last guy out. I always prided myself on that. I always wanted to work hard and be the hardest worker in the room. But honestly, for me, coming from a small school, it kind of made it, I wasn't playing to my ability. I kind of played a little bit nervous and scared, and I got over that as I got older. When you're playing in front of, 8,000 people at Missouri State against, Youngstown State, you go to the link, it's a little bit different. Yeah. And, I don't think my coaching with Tom Melvin is a specific type of coach. And me and him didn't mesh. He's very stern, very high strung, and he transferred that energy to me. If you're more of a calm, cool, collected guy, that's great. But for me, coming from the small school, small town, I just don't think our compatibility was great. And then, I found some coaches I hit it off with more down the road.
Yeah, and Jacksonville had a little bit, more of a career as far as catching passes.
Yeah, Jacksonville's great, but when you're the worst offense in the league, your numbers don't jump off the page for anybody there. When you're literally the worst offense in the league for 4 straight years.
Now, obviously, you're looking at it from the game perspective. Andy Reid, obviously the coach that drafted you, or the team that you started your career with. What team are you leaning towards? Who you be rooting for on Sunday?
No, it's tough. I love Big Red. I mean, the guy's awesome. He does a great job. He's a coach that drafted me. He gave me a chance in this league, and I'll have to say that I'm going for the Eagles, just because. I mean, it's Philly, man. It's tough to go against them, and that city. I love the city. And I think the Eagles are going to win just because their team. I mean, I know it's so tough to go against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, 2 of the best in the business to ever do it. But this team, I mean, we know that they got the 2 best offensive line and the defensive line league. The battle's one of the trenches. Their trenches are dug deeper. You can't really get around that, in my opinion. They can put pressure at Patrick Mahomes without blitzing. Patrick Mahomes shreds the blitz because you're leaving guys open. The Eagles don't have to blitz to get pressure. They have 70 sacks, the 3rd most in NFL history. 4 guys with over 10 sacks. I mean, this team will be able to do a good job of even covering these guys. They got 66 combined interceptions and forced incompletions, the most in the league in the defensive backfield. Slay and Bradbury can play. Avonte Maddox. I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson is actually a good matchup with Travis Kelce. Yeah. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith playing against 2 rookies that struggled to cover the guys from the Bengals. I think these guys are just as good as Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think Dallas Goedert is even better. They struggle to cover the tight end as well. And then you got a run game to go along with it with Miles Sanders, Boston Scott. Kenny Gainwell has been playing great this postseason. So in my mind, there's just no holes in this roster. There's just too much for the Chiefs to overcome. Even though you have the greatest quarterback in the league, the Eagles have the greatest team in the league, and I think the greatest team will win.
All right. It sounds like you're saying the Eagles win. Yeah, it sounds like you're going that. I mean, we have to ask you about the position. I mean, you're a tight end, and you look at this game, and you see a guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and a guy, you talk about consistency, really, with Dallas. I mean, I think when you watch him, the talent is there. He could be one of the best that ever played the game. He just has to stay healthy and be consistent. He's had a couple of missed games earlier this year, but he's a good player.
I think the 2 best tight ends in the NFL are playing in the Super Bowl this year. And I know people are saying Kittle, people are saying Andrews over Goddard. I got Goddard because he's an all-around guy. He played in 12 games this year. He still had 760 yards, 60 plus receptions, only 3 touchdowns. But you're not going to get a ton of touchdowns when you're doing the double butt cheek push. So they're sneaking a lot of those in. They're running it in. Jalen Hurts getting a lot of touchdowns. Goddard, in my opinion, is a full service tight end. And I don't hate tight ends that don't block, but I love what a tight end does block because to me, you're doing a disservice in position. A tight end is supposed to block. Goddard blocks. Goddard catches the ball. He can go down the field in the seam. He does it all. And obviously, he's not Travis Kelce, but after Kelce, I think there's a little bit of space, but Goddard is the next guy in line. I think Goddard is the second best tight end in the NFL.
Now, who do you view, one from each team, as the X factor?
Yeah, I think obviously right here, Kansas City Chiefs, you got to go with Pat Mahomes. But who's he throwing the ball to? Juju Smith-Schuster going to be healthy? See, is Tony?
We think McKinnon's going to be a bigger storyline that people might think.
Well, he's got 9 or 10 receiving touchdowns as a running back.
Yeah,
like how is that even possible? This guy's he's a huge deal. He's a guy that people don't talk about. Pacheco, another guy. He didn't have a great game against the Bengals, but he's a guy for the Chiefs that can change a game. So, I mean, there's a lot of players in that Kansas City Chiefs team that can make some plays. Even a guy like Justin Watson that was sick last week and didn't play. I think he's a guy that can sneak up and make a good play here and there. And for the Eagles, I think Devontae Smith, man, he's played in so many big games in his career. Obviously, A.J. Brown gets all the attention. But Devontae Smith, in my opinion, is a guy that needs to be talked about more. Top 10 in NFL in receiving. You look back to his freshman year of college. Do you remember when they won the national championship? Who caught the game-winning touchdown?
Yeah.
Devontae Smith shows up in big-time games. I think he's going to show up Sunday, and he's a guy that's going to make a difference for the Eagles.
Yeah. Clay, man, it's been amazing to catch up with you.
It's been my pleasure.
Before you just tell our great listeners, our great viewing audience, what you're doing, where they can find you, and also that you've just agreed today, even though we haven't signed it, he's going to be on Inside the Birds. We're getting Clay Harbor on Inside the Birds down the road. It's going to be more than once. We're going to figure something out. We got to get you on.
I would love to be on the Inside the Birds. You can find me on my Twitter at ClayHarbs82. I host the Chicago Bears post-game shows on CBS2 if you're a Bears fan. And I work with ESPN 690 Jacksonville, and you'll find me on Inside the Eagles pretty soon too.
That's right, Inside the Birds, right?
Inside the Birds, baby.
Clay Harbor, it's been a pleasure catching up.
Pleasure's mine, Jeff.
We'll catch up
Thanks,
with you
guys.
too.
Great.
Appreciate it.
All right, that's awesome. Clay Harbor. Inside the Birds Radio Row here, live at Radio Row here continues. We're going to have Adam Caplan joining us in a second. Clay, you're free to go.
All right, I didn't know if I should get up in the middle of the interview.
That's the beauty of live stream. The show goes on.
All right, guys.
Thanks. Great stuff, Clay. We are working, efforting, as they say in the business, to have LeGarrette Blount stop by for our next interview. And while we do that, the great Frank Caliendo might be stopping by. So now, can Frank Caliendo do an Adam Caplan impersonation?
I bet you he will. And
I've always been looking for someone who could do a really good Caplan. It's not easy.
I'm good at doing impressions, Jeff.
You are?
I can't. There's some that I can't do. I can't do Adam.
You got to have that monotone, very almost systematic voice that Adam
I'm
has.
even good at mannerisms.
You are?
Yeah.
You got a Caplanism mannerism for me?
There's not. I can't do them all, but I can't. I'm not. I wouldn't be good at doing Adam. But
His catchphrase is "goodness gracious." So if you're gonna do a Caplan impersonation, like say the Super
he
Bowl,
does say
coming up,
goodness
you're gonna have to, this matchup of tight ends, Dallas Goddard and
he says, "Oy vey."
Dallas Goddard and Travis Kelce. Oy, goodness gracious, that's some talent at tight end. No, I do a terrible Caplan, but
I'm gonna start picking up on these different cues.
it will not be easy. So again, we really appreciate Clay Harbor jumping on with us. We did speak with Jim McMahon earlier. So at some point we will air our interview with Jim McMahon, possibly at the bottom of the hour. A really powerful interview. Jim McMahon, obviously NFL champion, Super Bowl champion with the Bears, Eagles quarterback in the early 90s when Buddy Ryan with a great defense. He believes the 91 team should have been a championship team. He was a playoff team. He was just, he went through the whole rigmarole, the injuries and everything like that. But obviously, that was a very talented defense in 91. Buddy with one of his unbelievable production talent. Reggie to Seth, Rowan, Eric Allen, Waters, right? He was there and all of them.
It's a shame they weren't able to finish the deal and get a at least become a playoff team.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was the shame, and that's what he talked about because he felt that that team could have done some damage in the playoffs if they did. So we will have the Jim McMahon interview coming with you soon. Who else we got now? Maybe Frank Caliendo, as Adam just whispered into my ear. We can get that. I hope everybody enjoyed the Ross Tucker interview in hour one. That was good stuff. So we'll continue the Inside the Birds radio live stream here. And LeGarrette Blount, I know he was walking around. And I know that we're trying to get him. So hopefully we'll be able to get him in a second. A reminder that Inside the Birds presents Bird Bowl. I'm going to get this right. Inside the Birds is presenting Bird Bowl 2023 at Brooklyn Bowl, Philadelphia, with VIP bowling experiences, food and drink specials, and more. Head to brooklynbowl.com to make your big game plans now. All right. So what are you Clay thinks the Eagles have the advantage. And I did an interview today with the 97.5 Fanatic this morning, right? And I think in Philadelphia, people are getting very consumed by what the 49ers have said, like Brandon Ayuk, some of the other guys who were playing, Julian Love from the Giants. I think people are getting consumed by what someone from a losing team or what maybe a contrarian in the national media is saying. Because, and I want to ask you about this, when I walk around here and when I talk to people, whether they're former coaches, whether they're former players, executives, we had Thomas Dimitroff on, we'll air that interview at some point. They all think the Eagles are very good and winning the Super Bowl, unless, of course, Mahomes goes crazy. My point is, I don't hear disrespect on a national level for the Eagles the way I think Philadelphia feels that are being disrespected.
Yeah,
You get that same
I
sense?
think that's a disrespect as a term that's kind of thrown around way too often. I think that's more of a thing amongst fans. Like what these players are saying. You mentioned Brandon Ayuk. It's irrelevant to the game that's being played on Sunday. And all it is just another storyline. It really isn't even a storyline because, like I said, it has no impact, no bearing on the game. And everyone that I've talked to, Jeff, will tell you that the Eagles are the superior team from top to bottom. Obviously, the Chiefs have all-world players at key positions. I don't want to take that away from you, but the general consensus that I get is not one of disrespect. It's one of they're looked at as the NFL, and you're going to see two of the best teams play on Sunday, and that's the sentiment that I've gotten throughout the week. So that whole disrespect card, I don't know. You could probably play that in 2017, but certainly not this season.
Right, and if the Eagles win, I don't think you're going to hear a whole lot of, man, this is like the worst team to win a Super Bowl that I can ever remember. They didn't even have a 10-year Hall of Fame. I don't think you're going to hear that. And again, unless you're listening to the 49ers, the Giants, the Cowboys, you're always going to get that from your rivals. You're just always going to have the people that you beat. But on a national level, this Eagles team is they're favored.
And that's another thing. They're favored. So whenever anybody mentions that to me, my answer is who cares what the outside perception is. The league, the ones that really look at the league, and they're the ones that are going to tell you that the Eagles have probably the best team in football. Now, whether or not they win on Sunday, that has yet to be determined. Disrespect, that's not one of the things that you can even argue.
No, I think so get out. Our advice to you would be, don't listen to that micro echo chamber of rivals and foes and what they're saying about the Eagles, whether it's Julian Love, Brandon Ayuk, all the whining. And by the way, Darius Slay made a point on Monday night that I thought was pretty sort of flew under the radar. Someone had asked him about what Ayuk said, and he said that was sort of disrespectful to the game to cry like that and take away the confidence the team after losing. And I don't really remember. You go like past Super Bowls. I will say this. I'm not trying to feed it disrespecting, but I think that was a uniquely poor decision by a player to sort of regulate that.
So you're not in the league
yet. 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
Really weird. You just wonder if there's I don't know if there's a player like C.J. Gardner-Johnson maybe said something to Ayuk to get him routed.
I believe that.
I'm sure he did, but like there's for some reason he's still talking about it 2 weeks later.
I never.
In a way, it is disrespectful to the game, and it's also you're sort of grounding this is the week that should. This is the Super Bowl week.
That's awesome.
You're talking about something that happened 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Just let it
My
go.
thing now.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of instances they had to make
Like, I'm
in
not
that
really
game.
involved
Right.
with like PR.
I mean, it's
I
over.
don't,
It's over and done with.
I
They
don't
lost
know
by
who
a
I don't know the new.
I'm of the mindset, and I think our people would agree.
I don't know.
If you lose to a team that's good, like the Eagles, you should be like extolling the virtues of them. You should be screaming from the mountaintops how great of a team they are, because that sort of makes your loss look a little bit more. If you're sitting out there saying they're not good of a team, and you just lost to them by
31 to 7,
touchdowns,
yeah.
4 touchdowns, then what does that say about you guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, sometimes emotions get the best of people.
And that's
I
something that
think
I'm sure you've gotten asked that a number of times about the Julian Love and the IU angle, but I'm sure your answer is probably similar to mine.
Yeah, it is a who cares. And then again, it's just so different when you walk around a place like this. And you're talking to whether it's Jim McMahon or Clay Harbor. People watch the game, people analyze the game, Thomas Dimitrov, and they all sit there and tell you pound for pound. Not only are the Eagles good, but they're better than a team that's making their third straight trip to the Super Bowl. So what does that tell you in general about the level of talent that the Eagles have put together? It's respectable, it's formidable. People believe in this team. I think everybody who sat in this chair so far picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I think the Eagles are going to win, and I'm never accused of being over. I think we're leaning that way.
I mean, honestly, so where do you think their deficiency lies? Where is their weak point if you're looking at it
the coach.
from an Eagles standpoint?
Yeah, I don't think their weakness would be for anything from a personnel standpoint. Like they're not, which is an amazing thing to say. It's hard to find a weakness from a personnel standpoint. Right. I think in Super Bowls, oftentimes there's a major special team play that happens that can determine winner or loser. And so that'll always be a little bit of a concern, right? I think in the Super Bowl, it's not so much what your weaknesses are.
So I've been here all week.
It's what are you prepared for? Where the Indianapolis Colts prepared for the New Orleans Saints to open up the half with an onside kick. No, but that was a major swing of momentum for them in that game. Were the New England Patriots prepared for the Eagles to run the Philly special? No, they were not. That was a major swing of momentum during the game. Last year was the Bengals against the Rams. The Rams won the game. The Bengals had a trick play in the game where Joe Mixon threw a touchdown pass to T. Higgins. They were actually down 13-3 at the time. So it was pretty interesting that they were able to, even down 10, get a score on it. So it's always that stuff, the unpredictable. All right, so it sounds like we are going to be able to get Frank Caliendo sitting with us momentarily, just waiting to sit in. Andrew, we're going to excuse you for a second. Thanks so much for being with us an hour or two. And we're going to welcome in Adam Caplan in a second as we wait for Frank Caliendo.
Cosell's here, of course, part of the
Greg Cosell
ITB
is here.
family.
Yeah, Greg Cosell is going to be on with us. Greg Cosell will be on with us tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, along with Jason Avant. If you don't know Frank Caliendo, he is the premier impersonation.
Hey, Frank,
in
you got to do him. You've got to do him.
And we are going to try to get Frank Caliendo to do maybe a Adam Caplan and maybe a Greg Cosell impersonation while he's here with us. But obviously nobody knows football and nobody knows how to make light of the personalities of the game better than Frank
I
Caliendo.
will pay you.
And we are about to welcome him in 2 seconds. And he just said Adam can't pay him enough, and he is no doubt about right about that. He cannot pay Frank Caliendo. How was his uncle? Is his uncle?
Not his dad. No.
Let's get Frankie in. All right, here he is.
Are we live?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Oh,
Frank Caliendo, welcome to Inside the Birds on Radio Row Live. How are you doing?
Yeah, great.
Geoff
Great.
Mosher, nice
These
to
are the
meet you.
lightest
brother.
microphones I've
I
ever.
know.
What is it?
Careful, they might float. You
that
gotta,
what
you gotta
it
hold
is?
them. Yeah, you gotta hold them down.
Helium microphones.
There you go.
Yeah.
How's everything going?
Going well. Yeah, just walking around with my son. Trying to not to make eye contact with the wrong people. So,
Well, you failed here. Sorry.
I was gonna say I was gonna let you have the joke. So
So let me ask you this question. We never met at ESPN because I know you did a lot of their talent. How do you decide, okay, I want to do this person?
before ESPN, it was really if people are in commercials and stuff like that. That's one of the ways. See, at Fox, it was more like a magazine. So if you, I think of ESPN as like a newspaper. and Fox being more like the magazine. It's fancier pictures, cologne inserts, that kind of stuff, right? So you had to appeal more to people outside of sports. ESPN's kind of like The Simpsons, where it's its own world. So people in there, like the Schefters, according to my sources, at this particular time, it appears that everybody knows everybody going on there. As opposed to Fox, it was more outside, like we do Dr. Phil. What is the problem here today? That kind of stuff. That wouldn't work at ESPN because people are just watching that constantly, and that's their only world. So,
And the Ron Jaworski one was so good. How'd you come up with that one?
well, I was doing that 30 for 30. That maybe you remember. It was the Seattle Seahawks, Richard Sherman, 30 for 30. I was like, I'm just going to try and do as many of these guys I can. And I didn't have the jaws yet, and the words were truly believe. And when I did that, because he had talked about Colin Kaepernick and truly believe he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Like that was as Kaepernick was on his ascent, right, when he was playing. And so I'd heard that. I'm like, oh, because it's very close. Ron Jaworski is very close to what's his name? I think it's a comedian. That's another thing I have problems with is name remembering names, even how to say it.
That's Jeff.
Yeah, no, it's I can't even think of his name. Louis Black.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Because it's stupid.
Yeah.
That's really close. The truly believe.
Right.
Just go there. And now Jaws does that. Whenever I say it, he's like, I'm going to Ditka and Jaws' thing.
Oh yeah, I'll be there. You'll be there. Yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
there.
So
That's party here.
yeah. So I've been back. So much fun.
Have you ever had someone that you just tried hard?
All the time. And then
And
you
you
didn't
just
see,
couldn't
if
do
you
it.
haven't seen it, it's because I could never
Yeah.
get it.
Oh,
So that's one of those
give us
things.
one.
That's me. Okay, so do you test it out on your family, friends? Like, how do you test
Friends and stuff like that, but I'll do it on the radio too, because people can bail me out when they don't think it's ready. So,
Oh, you were like ulcer sensitive when someone, man, I just don't feel it. Or how do you
it's
handle it?
annoying because I'll tell people going in, like, I have to tell people, these things don't go 100 miles an hour when you first start. So you'd be working on it. Like when I first did, even the Mad, people are like, yeah, it's kind of close. And I'll listen to the beginning of Mad. When I first started, I'm like, that's terrible. And people thought it was great. I was getting on TV with that. So they're a work in progress. So what happens is you start out there, okay, you get the essence of it, and then you get really good at it sometimes, and then you get used to doing it, and then you don't give it 100% effort all the time, and it's kind of on it's on autopilot, and then it's not as good anymore. But then what you do is you turn, like Madden became this where it wasn't Madden.
Now, did you settle with John over the years?
He didn't like me, but his family started to like me, and that changed it, I think, a little bit.
Good.
So yeah, but that was it. Nance called me just recently, because I don't do a lot of Nance. All I can really do is say turnover day. And it was funny because he left me a message. He was like, "Hello, Frank, Jim Nance." I was like, "This is the
Hello,
greatest."
friends.
Yeah, no, hello, Frank. He was leaving me a voice.
Oh, did he?
Oh yeah, it was the greatest.
Okay, so give me
Okay, so you said you're not sure who you want to see here. Are there any people just cannot stand you?
As far as impressions,
Yes,
I
they-
guess there are certain people who don't like it. I'm not going to name names.
It's look, I could do Jim Rome.
I don't
Come on,
I don't know. I couldn't
it's
tell you.
phenomenal. But
How
I'm
good
like,
is
why
that?
would he be so mad?
I don't know. Some
That's
people
really, but that
they
did
don't
actually
like it.
sound exactly like him.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Some people say they don't like it, but whatever. You just go on and just be silly. That's kind of my game.
Hey, good.
I was going to say,
No, ask it both questions at the same time.
And
you go. Nick Sirianni. I would think he'd be.
There's
tough because
something to
he-
do. Yeah,
kind
he's
of-
gonna. Yeah,
You know?
yeah. There's something. I know somebody who does. What you kind of get on is you get on the sayings that they have, and then people clip onto that. Like they latch onto that, and that can sell it a little bit more. Like if I'll do an Andy Reid, I'll just put my neck back a little
Oh,
bit, throw in a
geez.
mustache, and put on the right stuff, and all of a sudden it's him.
I love your Belichick.
Yeah.
I
Which
love
is
your
nothing.
Belichick. No, but your Belichick's hilarious. You wore the
Just,
and he wore that he cut off sleeves.
it's just kind of the sale. You just sell it with the look sometimes.
Oh man. Are they okay? So any give me all sports. What coaches do you do? We know Madden. We know
I don't do a ton of I don't do a ton of sports stuff because I've done it all.
Ditka?
So,
you
that's
do
what-
Ditka.
well, Ditka's almost Bruce Arians, so it's hard to go back to Ditka because Ditka's I'm not punching the butt, I'm not punching, but Bruce Arians, that's what I'm talking about. Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Win or lose, we booze, baby. That's what it is, all right there. So
Was that Dusty Rhodes right there?
it's same voice,
Like John C. Riley is this. Mark Ruffalo, you just put a little more air into it. You put a little rough wrestling. It's Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, man, I think that's pretty good right there. That's what that is. Joe Rogan. Wow, Jamie, pull that up. So they're all pretty similar. But that's the muscle memory. When I was doing Madden, I realized that here you just bring it up and it becomes Bill Walton. How great is that? Enjoying the world as it
Madden,
rotates.
how many months, weeks, years did it take for you to do your first? When you debuted it, like did it take you a year to get it down?
Yeah, it was probably a couple of years before anybody. I was doing that before I was at school for broadcast journalism at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and I was just kind of doing it as silliness. And then I went out to LA. I was doing stand-up, and Jimmy Kimmel put me on with the Fox pregame show. He and his producer, Jimmy Brusca, both had a guy who did a John Madden impression for his segments.
Sure.
They were fighting over who was going to get it. Turned out I was both the guys.
How much did just being a part of doing impersonations of football guys, do you just become naturally learn more about football and just the game? And
Quite a bit. I mean, I always kept it very broad because I was always doing stuff more for a general audience than I didn't want to get to, I failed miserably. I'm very known for the sports impressions, but that was always my game plan, was to do much wider stuff. But you do learn it's interesting because I get to meet a lot of people that most people wouldn't ever meet.
Sure.
And working with Hall of Famers and being alongside Hall of Famers been good for the corporate comedy world.
I think so.
One thing, when you started doing Seinfeld in recent years, I didn't know you were going to do it. I think I saw it on like either your IG, maybe like one of the
10 years
Seinfeld
old. That's
accounts?
on my TV show. I had a TV show in 2007.
Again, I just saw it for the first time though.
Yeah.
You're Kramer.
Hey, Jerry, that's pretty good, huh? Yeah. And he looks like a bowling ball. It looks like South Park version of
It's really good.
Yeah. And there was a different version of that was actually better. But people are like, how'd you get the set? I'm like, I had a whole TV show years ago, they paid for it.
And do you do Jerry?
What do you want from me? What do you
I thought,
No idea, Jerry. No idea. Hey, Jerry, where's Newman? Hello, Jerry. You should see the Elaine. That's the scary one.
Oh, well, let's hear it.
you don't dance, do you?
Just
No.
It's just the look.
Can you do a cap? Now, this is.
We were talking about it earlier. There is stuff to do.
I got Philly. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have a certain part of them. You're talking out of the front of your mouth. So
I was telling Frank that when
you see his tongue when he talks.
Oh, jeez.
Jeez. You hear me said G's? Did you hear me said G's? The S. The way people do S.
Do a slur.
It's not a slur. I didn't say it's a slur. It's an S. The way your mouth forms. I watch out your S.
Okay.
Listen, he's an expert. He also says.
Okay, Jerry Madeline over here.
At least 30 times a podcast.
I say what?
Goodness gracious.
Goodness gracious.
Well, I
It's like
curse
a
a little bit.
drinking
I
game.
try not to
Yeah.
curse. Yeah. Because they want me to curse, but I won't do it. So when you do stand up, what is your comedy other than impressions?
It goes in and out. Goes in and out. It's observations of people and stuff. Like telling little bits of stories and stuff like that too. So yeah, it's just.
Are you are you the type of person who will just start picking out guys in the audience or people in the audience?
No, not really. No, they're there to see something. They're there to see me. I'm kind of a presentational kind of guy as opposed to interact. I do a little bit because it brings people in, but no, I'm not a insult comic. I don't, especially people up front. They paid the money to sit up front. I feel that's not what they're looking for.
Have you done shows in Philly?
Yeah.
Where?
I've done Tower Theater.
Nice.
There you go. Legendary place.
Yeah, I've done quite a
How's
few.
the crowd? You like the Philly crowd?
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest, so it's a little rough around the edges, of course.
Yeah, I love how you think about it.
Well, no, it's just different. East Coast is different. They punch at you, right?
Yeah.
East Coast, you got to go. Comedy, I found on the East Coast when I first got out there, you got to get it. Go. That's what Bill Burr. Bill Burr. That's what I'm talking about right here.
Yes.
That you got to go. And West Coast, you can be way more laid back. Midwest, they're just happy that you showed up. So
Gotcha.
there's a big difference. Like New York is like, hey, we got, Seinfeld might stop down. What do you care about you, Caliendo? We get the real guy.
What other sitcom voices do you do? I mean, that's like the best of all time.
You could do a Ray Romano. No. Yeah. What are we doing over here?
It's really
yeah, there's.
Can you do? Who is his brother? It was Brad Garrett.
Brad
right?
Garrett.
Raymond. It's hard. Raymond.
my God.
Frank Costanza, as he was played Frank Costanza, Jerry Stiller. Jerry Stiller, I did
great.
I did an event. I was in the Montreal Comedy Festival. This is like 20 years ago. I did the Seinfeld bit that I do, and Jerry Stiller comes and goes, I really enjoyed your act, especially the Seinfeld portion. I was like, this is the greatest day of my life. Jerry Stiller's coming up to talk to me about these. But this is what he goes, could you tell me where the bathroom is? That's the only reason. And then I was doing a thing with Ben Stiller one time. I was doing a sketch and he was in it. And I was like, your dad did that? He's like, oh my God, that's hilarious. So,
oh God, that's awesome, man.
Who are you working on right now? Any new?
Listen, no, because I don't even care anymore. The people, that's why it's so funny because everybody comes around right like, once John, who are you doing new? I'm like, nobody. I'm just showing my son around here. And I said, yes, I'll come and say hello. But you guys were great because you had a conversation. Sometimes people down here will be like, okay, do this. I'm like, no,
I want to learn more about your career, man. Because I don't know a lot.
I go in. Most people, some people don't realize I can go in and out of the voices. We're talking Philly. Don't be a knucklehead. We're talking about what's going on. LeBron James, very, very good. One of the greatest of all time. I played against Michael Jordan. There's only one Michael Jordan, and LeBron's kids are wearing Jordans. That's all I got to know.
I gotta have all right, I do have one request, Stephen A.
I have to say, I don't even understand where you're coming from with some of these things. Contemplation here is where exactly we're at, and I don't have the thesaurus with me, so I can't expunge you at the level that I'm trying to right now.
He's a good sport. We appreciate
it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Great to see you guys. You're doing great. I am out.
Awesome.
See you guys.
All right, we are continuing with Inside the Birds Radio Row Live. That was Frank Caliendo. So thankful for him to join us. Adam Caplan's going to be on. We are going to come back with hour 3 pretty soon. We wanted to end hour 2. We did have an interview. Adam Caplan and I had a chance to sit down with one of the real legends of the game, former Eagles quarterback, but also former Bears Super Bowl champion quarterback, Jim McMahon. So we're going to go to that interview right now and then be back for hour 3 later. All right, here Inside the Birds live on Radio Row, and we're very, very fortunate to be joined by a true legend of the game. He's a former Eagles quarterback, but also a Super Bowl champion quarterback, Jim McMahon from the Chicago Bears. Jim, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure, guys. How's everybody doing in Philly?
Man, we're great. You look awesome, by the way. You look fantastic.
It's good, clean living. A lot of beer and cannabis could take you a long way.
Well, we hear about that. Tell us about that.
Well, this is our company, Revenant. I'm in the company with ex-ball players Kyle Turley and Evan Britton. Ricky Williams was part of us early on, but he's got his own brand now. But yeah, we're promoting this as a medicine, and we're trying to get the NFL to stop testing for cannabis because it's the only patented neuroprotectant in the world. And we should be using this plant, especially guys that are playing this kind of a sport should be using it. So they should stop testing, stop finding guys, and
what's their response to that when you talk to the NFL about stop testing? Why do they want to continue?
Probably because big pharma's in everybody's pocket. They can get all the free pills they want. And those have been proven to be addictive, proven to kill people, whereas cannabis actually helps the body. Your number one regulatory system in your body is the endocannabinoid system. We're supposed to be using this plant. You don't have any receptors in your body for morphine or cocaine or xylocaine or any of these other drugs that they're pushing on you. So let us, let the guys use what could actually help them rather than just mask their pain.
So Jim, speaking of masking your pain, when you played, did you get Toradol shots? Like, what do you take for pain?
I had all kinds of shots: Toradol, Marcaine, xylocaine. One of the Kane brothers is always involved. It seems like.
Oh, jeez.
Toradol, of course. All the anti-inflammatories, Naproxen.
Sure.
There's so many different things that they push down your throat, and none of them do anything other than like I said, mask the pain. Whereas cannabis is actually an anti-inflammatory. It's a neuroprotectant. I mean, it helps so many ailments in your body because we have receptors for this. So you just got to figure out what strain is the best for you, and you're going to feel a hell of a lot better.
Sure. How have you felt? How do you feel these days?
Well, like I said, I still have to deal with my head every 4 months, but body wise, I can get around it. The last 15 months, I had a surgery 15 months ago on my ankle, just a routine surgery. It got infected, ended up having 2 more surgeries. They talked about cutting my leg off from the knee down. They end up saving the leg, but some bits don't want to work right now. So I'm still breaking up scar tissue trying to walk, and it's frustrating as hell because I've always been a quick healer, but I had an open wound for 7 months, and when your foot doesn't move for 7 months, it doesn't want to move at all now.
So when you talk about cannabis, and I know your story with brain situations and memory and all that, but how is cannabis helping you get some of that back, whatever you can get back?
Well, like we just mentioned earlier, my memory is still, I can still remember stuff that happened,
But
you
it,
know,
but it's
20,
bringing
30
you
years
something
ago.
farther back. What can it bring back?
It can bring back your body to back into its healing itself. I mean, that's what this plant is for.
Wow.
It's a medicinal herb. It's not a drug. You know, it's only a drug when man puts his hands on it and starts putting chemicals in it. You know, if you just chewed on cocoa leaves, you never have a cocaine problem. But it's all these chemicals man adds together. That's why this plant it grows naturally all over the world. I always tell people it's God's gift to us. And that's why it's so pungent, because man had to find it back in the day to heal himself.
And that's why you're pitching to the NFL, because you're not adding anything to it. Could
No,
we
you're
say
not
it's
on that.
natural?
It is
Is it natural?
It grows
Okay.
naturally.
Okay.
I mean, they experiment. These guys are scientists that are doing this stuff. I mean, they're you know, they I don't know how they splice two seeds together to make hybrids, and I don't understand all that part of it. I just understand what it does for my body and for everybody else's body, because we have those receptors in our body for it.
What has the NFLPA said about this?
I know Kyle Turley did a big presentation to the NFLPA and the NFL 2 years ago, and they all agreed with it. But yet
Nothing.
they still haven't changed the rules where they just do stop testing for it altogether.
Gotcha.
So speaking of your memory, we had an interesting conversation before you came on with us. We were talking about your time with the Eagles, and you felt that there was a time where you guys should have won it all. You should have been
Well,
the first Eagles team to win it all.
There's no doubt about it. 1991, it was you know, one of the best defenses that they talk about. Our 85 defense, that 91 defense is every bit as good. I thought, you know, they were a hell of a football team. Unfortunately, offensively, we struggled. You know, I kept getting hurt. I mean, I think I was 8-3 that year as a starter, and we finished 10-6. So that's when we had, I think, Pat Ryan. We were just talking, Brad Dable, Jeff Kemp. It was like a who's who of
Jeff Kemp,
old quarterbacks.
that's
And
unbelievable.
we just couldn't get that third win out of them. I
Oh,
said, just
man.
go 3-3. We'll go the playoffs.
And Kotite was your coach.
Kotite was the coach.
You like
we
Rich, not
started-
like him? What do you think?
We were 3-5 at the first 8 games, and as I looked at the schedule, I said, Richie, we got to win all 8, or we're not going to go. He said, no, we win 7, we'll go. And at the time, Washington was ahead of us, and so were the Giants. I said, they don't take 3 teams from the same conference or division. And so ended up we won 7 of 8 and didn't go. So, but nobody wanted to play that defense in 91 for sure.
Did you enjoy playing for Richie?
Yeah, I enjoyed Richie. Richie was, you know, I didn't have to do much because I was hurt all year with my elbow. You know, I had a torn tendon and a broken bone in my elbow. They kept telling me it was tendonitis. And so, you know, I struggled with that all year. And of course, I blew my knee out as well. And then at the end of the season, had all the ribs taken off my sternum. But other than that, yeah, feeling pretty good, boys.
Jeez. How would you compare it? So that 91 team, you're talking about Reggie, right? You got
Reggie, Jerome Brown,
got,
Clyde Simmons, Seth
Clark,
Joyner,
Eric Allen,
Byron Evans, Eric Allen,
Oh,
Wes
God.
Wes Hopkins, Andre Waters. Like I said, they were as good, I thought, as we were. Wow. You know, they had the same system, buddy system, and they created the same kind of havoc that we used to create.
Right, right.
I have to ask you. Okay, you just mentioned Buddy Ryan. You had a bird's eye view. Everybody knows those of you are over 40. No, Jim played for Mike Ditka. Seeing Ditka and Buddy Ryan spar, you had a bird's eye view. What was it like as a player? Like it seems absurd to me that could never happen in today's social media.
Well, it was a very dysfunctional program we had. We basically had 2 head coaches. We had a head coach for the defense and a head coach for the offense, and it was. They took it out on us. You know, they didn't like each other, and so our practices lasted 3.5 hours every day in pads. Every day, everything's live. And so we couldn't wait to get to Sunday, because Sundays was kind of a day off for us.
Did you like Buddy was known as a guy who, you know,
He liked to stir things up.
Make 3 or 4 plays. I got my defense. So when you came to Philadelphia and Buddy's there, right? Are you thinking, here we go, it's going to be the same thing?
That was Buddy's philosophy. Buddy would tell our guys, hey, just run the ball, we'll score on defense and win. I'm like, Buddy, you can't do that in this league, especially when you got to play, you know, the Cowboys and the 49ers and teams like that, you know they're going to score points.
Right.
And I sat him down one time and said, look, everywhere that you've gone to the Super Bowl, you know, he was with the Minnesota Vikings, he was with the Jets, They had pretty good offenses too. The Bears had a pretty good offense too. I said, you need that other side of the ball. You're never going to win it. But he just, he was like he had like blinders on. He's a big horse guy. He had the blinders on. His defense was going to win games. And that's how he coached.
What do you remember about playing in Philly?
I remember eating a cheesesteak before every game. That was awesome.
Really?
I
From
miss
where?
I miss my
Big answer.
cheesesteaks. I can't remember if it was Jeans or Pat's.
Okay.
I used to,
He knows.
Casey Weldon was he was another,
Casey Weldon back up
I
from
forgot-
Florida
I
State.
but I used to have
Wow.
him go get me one before
Man.
every kickoff. So I miss those. And miss the fans giving you crap on the way into the stadium,
Oh, yeah.
on the way into the stadium.
Yeah. And you played for
And
that
they-
team.
yes.
For their team.
And they knew it was the home team, and they're still giving you grief.
Oh, man.
but
They
that's-
did love defense, though.
Oh yeah.
Philadelphia is one of the few cities we always, would go to training camp, especially when later on Brian Dawkins era, where the defense would get cheered more than the offense. I can't imagine that if you go around the NFL, that was a thing.
It happened in Chicago too. Buddy went. They did it here in Phoenix when Buddy was here. I came here in '94 to play for Buddy as well, and yeah, he didn't change.
So Jim, this week, Super Bowl week, you were there in '85 as a quarterback, the starting quarterback. Now we don't need to get into the Roselle stuff unless you want to, the sweatband and all that, but just as a quarterback leading up, what's the preparation like? Being that guy.
It's no different than any other week. I mean, other than, especially when I was down there, it was, we started out, we had no curfew all week, which was great. And when it started out beautifully, I think we got down there on a Monday and we saw the sun come up
I was
probably
going to ask you.
three or four
Yeah, I was
days in
gonna
a
ask you.
row.
Okay. Okay.
And then on Thursday morning, I got woken up by some irate fans screaming and yelling at me, threatening me. And so that happened 2 or 3 times. And my roommate says, "What's going on?" I go, "I don't know. Somebody's mad at me." I go down to the team breakfast. I'm standing in line and the GM walked up to me and said, "Oh, you really did it this time." And I still don't know what the hell I did. Right. So I'm still standing in the breakfast line. And then Coach Dicka
Jerry
walked.
Venisi? Was it Jerry Venisi?
It was Venisi.
Yeah.
And then Dicka walked up to me and said, "Hey, did you really say that?" And I said, "Mike, I don't know what I did." I said, "Jerry's pissed." I said, "Some fans are pissed. What did I do?" And he said, "Did you do a radio show this morning and call all the women of New Orleans sluts?" I said, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "What time was the show?" He said, 6 o'clock. I said, "I didn't get back here till 5:30. I didn't do a damn show at 6. And I certainly didn't say that about the women of New Orleans." So the rest of the week, I was getting death threats.
I remember that.
Women were picketing the hotel. Guys wouldn't stand by me at practice because they thought I was going to get
I
shot.
gotta ask this question. Jeez.
Yeah, it was, so
Wow.
it wasn't the Super Bowl ending that I wanted other than the victory.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't even, I don't even remember much of the game. I just wanted to get the hell out the field.
Gotcha.
And I've seen all those crazy movies, Black Sunday and all
That's
that.
right. That's right.
If they want to get you, they'll get you. So I just
Wow.
couldn't wait to get out of town.
Oh, I bet.
Jim, we can't thank you enough for coming on with us. Always a pleasure to catch up. True legend of the game. Tell us again about the company and the name and any area they can find
It's
it.
called Revenant MJ. That's where you can find it on the internet. We're in 3 states right now, hopefully coming to a state near you soon. And people start using it. It's the best thing on the planet.
Right. Thanks so much. Jim McMahon, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.